Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stephen Breach coming to you here today. This is going to be a big, huge edition of Monday Night Raw. Last week, I can easily say that WWE saved WrestleMania 32. It's not that we all thought that WrestleMania 32 was going to be horrible, but definitely with the return of Shane McMahon and then, just bam, right into your face. As it's sort of sinking in that Shane McMahon is coming into WWE and they are building a new storyline. Basically where it's going to be Shane versus Vince, to see who's going to be running WWE because Shane says that he believes Triple H and Stephanie have not been running the WWE the correct way. Basically saying the stock is down, the ratings is down. They don't have a good roster right now because of injuries to the superstars. He's not taking care of the superstars. WWE is not being run right, and he wants to run it now. Vince basically says to Shane that, you're going to have to do something for me. You're going to have a match, and you're going to have to win that match. And I think everybody knew at that point it was going to be a match at WrestleMania, but I think people were thinking in the back of their mind, maybe they would pull some wild card, and it would be Shane against Stephanie. There was lots of talks about Stephanie having a match at WrestleMania this year, maybe against Ronda Rousey or against another members of the Divas. She really did knock it out of the park at SummerSlam a few years ago, going up against Brie Bella. I think that, to me, I was looking forward to John Cena going up against Brock Lesnar for the championship, but I think I was really looking forward to Stephanie versus Brie more than anything else on that show, and it was one of the reasons why I was really glad that I went to that show as well. But I thought maybe they would do Vince versus Shane, a rematch of WrestleMania 17, those guys beating the hell out of each other with Mick Foley as the special guest referee, and Trish Stratus wheeling around Linda McMahon in the wheelchair, and all sorts of things like that. But they ended up going with the wild card. I don't think anybody thought that Shane McMahon was going to be the guy that fought Undertaker, and then especially, fighting Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell. I mean, that's going to be a really big deal. We have the match set, and immediately the thought that ran through my mind was, why is Undertaker going to accept this match? I mean, basically, yes, Vince is the promoter, and he is the talent, and at the end of the day, the talent has to do what the promoter says, and they might not like it, but that's their job, and they got to go out there and do it. But this is the world of professional wrestling, and for everybody to want somebody to do something for them, they want that person to do something for them as well. And I think that tomorrow, with Undertaker appearing on Raw, we're going to see Vince McMahon do what Vince McMahon does best, and that is basically play the devil. The Undertaker might play the dead man, but Vince is really the devil, and I think that's really what he comes off as, and he needs to come up and he needs to make a deal with Undertaker to figure out why Undertaker would want to fight Shane McMahon. People have dug up dirt, and I guess you can say that throughout the Attitude Era, Shane and the Undertaker were either on different sides or next to each other during the whole corporate ministry deal. They had their scuffles and things like that along the way. But to me, honestly, when I think of the rivals of Shane McMahon, I don't really think of The Undertaker. When I think of Undertaker's rivalries, I don't really think of Shane. They might have been working there at the same time, but I just don't think of them really doing anything. I think of Shane having more heat with Kane more than anything else. But I think this was during a time when I wasn't watching wrestling. I've seen the match. I've seen the build-up, but I don't really know what the storyline was for Kane versus Shane. Kane, shocking his nuts and stuff like that. But, tomorrow, I think we're going to see the big... I wouldn't be surprised if Undertaker comes out first to start up the show right there at 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever time it is in your time zone. And, we get the showdown, and we get another 30-minute segment to figuring out what WrestleMania 32 is going to be all about. I mean, these storylines all really do come together, and they are going to be really, really big. So, Undertaker being on Raw is going to be huge. We should be getting some answers. Maybe even leaving us with some questions. I mean, WWE, when they have their writers come up with something that actually is really good like this and knocks it out of the park, sometimes they fall on their face in a week or maybe even 2 weeks because they can start a storyline. It's continuing a storyline is the problem. I think one of the pluses was that they didn't really talk about this or, use Vince, Shane, or anybody on SmackDown. I mean, a lot of times when you do mid-card feuds, they get killed because of the fact that you don't really know how to make this go twice a week. Once a week, you can build the storyline for it, but when you're just shooting through things as fast as you can because you've got Dolph Ziggler or Kevin Owens or, Chris Jericho and AJ Styles, it's easy to blow through those. But Undertaker on Raw, gonna be huge. One of the big matches that is being built up for Monday Night Raw was put together on SmackDown. It was booked by none other than Ric Flair and Charlotte coming out and basically saying that, they need to find out who they're going to be facing at WrestleMania, and there is going to be a match to be a number one contender to see which girl is going to fight at WrestleMania against Charlotte. And I think this is going to be a really big match. Becky Lynch going up against Sasha Banks. Both of these girls have really, sort of filled in a role that I don't think that they were really, booked to be in. Definitely Becky. Maybe Sasha was, going to get the push down the line. But definitely, I don't really know what happened to Paige. I heard that she had an injury, and basically Becky Lynch had to step up and sort of take her place. And the Becky Lynch versus Charlotte feud ended up being, to me, more entertaining than Paige versus Charlotte was to be with in the begin with. And I thought that mainly I thought they were going to be going for a three-way anyways. And then, last month, I don't know if it was because of Daniel Bryan and his retirement, and then maybe trying to capitalize off of that with Brie Bella getting pushed into the spot when it looked like it was going to be Sasha going up at Fastlane against Charlotte. And then it ended up being that they went with this storyline where Team Bad was turning on Sasha because he had sort of up them to get into the championship shot, and maybe she hadn't really gotten her role as being the leader, and those girls were sort of feeling like they got left behind because they were just getting left out of the championship picture altogether. That made it where Becky and Sasha teamed up at Fastlane and they won their match, and some people thought that it was going to be a three-way. I think that, if you want this to be a memorable match, it's going to be a very good match. I think that you don't go the way of the three-way. The three-way is good for a Fastlane. It's good for a Payback. It might be good for Extreme Rules. But when it comes to WrestleMania, the matches that you're going to remember, you want to have singles matches. You want to build, good, consistent feuds. And getting this number one contenders match out of the way, with 5 weeks until WrestleMania, I think that's going to be good because then Becky Lynch can sort of maybe take a back seat, and Sasha can move into it. Sasha is the girl that I think is going to be winning this. She definitely deserves this. You think about the way that she knocked it out of the park at SummerSlam, having the big match against Bayley at the NXT TakeOver Brooklyn special, the Iron Man, Iron Woman, whatever you want to call it. They battled it all out, and even in a losing effort, she looked great. And I think that she is going to be one of the really bright pieces of the Divas division that makes this, a real firm spot. And the one thing I like about this is that, they make appearances on Total Divas, but these girls that are all involved in this whole deal, they're not about Total Divas. It's almost like they're being secluded from this because they're real wrestlers. Of course, in NXT they were called the Four Horsewomen, and someday Bayley will get brought up to the main fold. But you're supposed to take them seriously, unlike the other girls. Which I don't want to knock these girls for being on Total Divas, but except for Paige, I mean, none of these girls are really looked at as great wrestlers. Natalia, she's got the skills, but WWE doesn't like using her that way because of her age. She still looks dynamite to me, and I don't think she's all that old. She should be in there. They show her a lot training girls at the Performance Center and going through matches and going on the road at house shows and having matches with the girls there, trying to get them experience on having a good match. But why she hasn't been brought up to a main roster feud in a long time, I've got no clue. I mean, she could add a lot to what's going down. With the Divas division, I think even with Becky Lynch, if she does lose this match, I do think that there is going to be something for her. I think the women's division, I don't think they're going to have like a great, huge match, but I could see them using all of the divas in one match. I know that they already probably are going to have the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, but having some sort of a Divas scramble or, one fall decides it all to find out who the new number one contender is going to be, where you can give a win to a wild card like Summer Rae, or maybe have Becky Lynch get right back into the championship picture once WrestleMania is over with. That would be fun, and we'll have to see what they do with that. With the rest of Monday Night Raw, I know that Roman Reigns is going to be at Monday Night Raw, but I don't know how physical he is going to be. Of course, last week they did the storyline where Triple H just beat the holy hell out of Roman Reigns by battering his head off of the announce table 15, 20 times, hitting him with the ring bell. They did the story of on Tuesday him going and getting his nose. He got some work on it, and to me, honestly, I thought they just sort of gimmicked these pictures in the back. But I guess this is actual real work that got done to his nose that he had been needing for a while. And I think it probably helped out the storyline of these pictures getting out there for the casual fan who would think that these, were legit. And they ended up being legit. And once I heard that, I just was sort of like, holy shit. But, just these many days after getting, nose surgery, I don't think he's going to be getting very physical. So more than likely, maybe just some sort of a promo of going out there and saying that him and Triple H are going to get on at WrestleMania. And, he's going to cop this fist and he's going to make it rain up in this bitch or something like that. I'm not sure. But WrestleMania 32, I know that there's going to be a lot, put on this match because it's for the championship. But I think this match goes hand in hand with the whole Undertaker and Shane Vince thing that, it's almost like, I don't know, man. Like, it's just, I get the hugest smile on my face because I'm so glad I'm going to this WrestleMania because for the longest time, I just thought this Mania was dead, and here they are. They're just blowing it up out of the water. Dean Ambrose, I don't think Brock Lesnar is going to be on Monday Night Raw. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I haven't seen the headlines coming out of Brock being at Raw. But Dean Ambrose got the match that he wanted. He's going to be needing some sort of time to heal up after getting his ass whooped for the last few weeks by Brock Lesnar, building up to the fast lane, and then of course him getting his match. Ambrose is crazy. He's going to do whatever it takes to get it over, and we're going to see from there. If you go to the WWE 5-point preview for Monday Night Raw, they're basically saying that there's going to be a Dudleys versus Usos match. I'm a little bit, mixed up on this as well because it's not a championship match. They have been building up the fact that the New Day and the League of Nations sort of have a feud of their own. I don't know if they're looking at the Dudleys versus the Usos as sort of a number one contenders match, and maybe the League of Nations against the New Day is just a placeholder while, these guys are battling out to see who's going to fight the champions, and they just want to have enough matches to fill up a 3-hour Raw. But, I was always sort of getting used to the 4-team Fatal 4-Way that they do every year at Mania to start the whole thing off. So if they're going to have a match, I'm taking the returning Usos to beat the Dudleys, but the Dudleys have looked pretty strong since beating the Usos up and then coming out and basically, letting everybody know that they're not a nostalgia act. They're here because they want the tag team championships, and they looked like they were going to win them when they were going up against the New Day a while ago. I think the Dudleys will win the title someday. I just don't think it's going to be WrestleMania 32 time.